Hello and welcome back to the What Everybody podcast. That's right, we are right where we are supposed to be. This week, Ryan has a new TV show that he is smitten by. Jonny is sick of people stealing his thunder. And later, we sit down and have a chat with Eric 13, guitar player for Combichrist, guitarist and singer for Sex Slaves, and running his own show as a solo artist. So now's the time. Grab a cheesesteak, a Yingling lager, your favorite shoes, and enjoy the show. So with no further ado, Ryan and Jonny.
Yeah, make it different every podcast.
For real or no? Is that sarcasm?
No, I'm joking with you.
Oh.
I'm coming in hot today. I woke up tired and I'm trying to crowbar my way through it.
Ryan Harris, you wake up tired every day.
I do. I don't know why. I need vitamins or something.
Well, no, you know why? You know what you're not doing, Ryan Harris? Is you're not drinking the Java. Java backwards is a vag, and you should be drinking it every morning. That just came to me right now. I was going to say Java backwards, and then it came out that way. I was like, oh wow, it really is a vag. It's awesome. Killer.
That's equal parts gross and awesome.
Your tiredness is making me tired. I don't dig it.
No. You don't get to do that.
But it's true.
I'm climbing out of it. I'm tired. I'm in a good mood.
Nobody
Doesn't
said
mean
you
I'm
were
in a bad mood.
We're just trying to figure out why it's 1:30 in the afternoon and you're sleepy.
I don't know. I'm anemic.
Maybe. Did you eat today?
Yeah, I ate today.
Did you eat too much today?
No, I ate a good amount today. I feel very good. I feel trim.
You're extremely tired. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this one.
I'm tired because I went to bed late last night because I found a new show.
You say that with shame. So I'm dying to know what this is. What is it?
I say it with shame because even I'm a little bit disappointed in myself. There's a new show out there. It's called F-Boy Island.
F-Boy Island, as in like a fuckboy island?
But they don't say it's F dash.
Do they put
boy.
Do they put like F asterisk K or something?
No, it's F dash BOY. So F-Boy Island. Now here's the premise.
I don't know how. Like, let me hold on. Before you go with the premise.
Yeah.
What is one's thinking, going through their head when they're like, "Hey, F-Boy Island, I'm on it."
Yeah, it's somebody that just really wants to be on TV.
No. I'm asking you. Your logic in wanting to watch the television show. Like, what was it about the title of that show that made you go, yeah, I'm on it?
Because everybody's beautiful. And it's a videotape train wreck.
I give you a lot of props because you said everyone's beautiful. If I see a show where everyone's beautiful, I'm not going to put it on because all it's going to do is make me feel shitty about myself. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I don't know. I try not to compare myself to other people. It tends to not end well.
All right, what's the premise of this show?
So the premise of this show is there's 24 guys and there's 3 girls. Now, when I say there's 3 girls, there are 3, on a scale of 10, they are 10s. Okay? There's 24 guys, okay? And they're self-admitted nice guys or self-admitted F-boys, 12 and 12, okay? And it's up to...
So there's nice guys, and then there's guys who are just dogs.
Yes,
12 of
self-admitted, both equal parts, they're both self-admitted, like I'm a nice guy, I'm an F-boy. Okay. And it's up to the girls to decipher who's who from who, and the guys are trying to all act like they're nice guys.
Even the F-boys are trying to act that way?
Even the F-boys are trying to act that way.
But they're F-boys.
Well, that's why they're acting that way. So the girls at the end of the show, they pick 2 guys, like their bottom 2. And of their bottom 2, those guys get to argue, here's my case for keeping me around. The girl votes one of them off, and then he reveals, I'm either an F-boy or I'm a nice guy. And if he's a nice guy...
so they don't know until the end.
They don't know until the end until they get voted off. So when they vote a nice guy off, they're like, well, we made a mistake, you know? And then the nice guy, I think they're going to come back later in the show. I haven't watched the whole thing yet because they send him to this really, really nice house. Like, they're on an island. It's like, or they're somewhere beautiful. And they send him to a really nice house. And then if an F-boy gets voted off, they send them to Limbro.
What's limbo?
Limbro, limbo.
Oh.
It's really kind of, like I said, I'm ashamed of myself, but.
What's the end goal of this show, though? Like, what are they trying to win?
Love, I guess.
So it's a dating thing. It's like a Bachelor, but it's just a new version of the Bachelor. Dude, you need to get some help. I don't know what's going on with you. This Bachelor.
No, I just need to diversify.
Island.
I go on my little trends of things, and this is just, this is a current trend. I like The Bachelor, and now this one looks like The Bachelor on steroids. I went on HBO Max because, as per our last episode, I wanted to watch the Woodstock 99 documentary. And whenever I turned the app on to get the documentary, the first thing that popped up was F-Boy Island.
I got to find out, you never watched the Woodstock documentary?
No, because like I said, when I opened the app, the first thing that popped up was F-Boy Island, and there was not a chance of me not clicking on that.
Why couldn't you watch the documentary and go back to F-U Island or F-Boy Island?
There's only so much time in the day, buddy. How much TV do you want me to watch? If I were to go into the psychology of it, here's my best guess. Sometimes I just want to turn my brain off and watch something that I don't have to think about. And that's about as close to that as you're going to get. F-Boy Island.
I thought, Ryan Harris, that Brad Garrett was the only thunder-stealing ass bitch out there. I've come to realize that there's more thunder-stealing ass bitches out there. Now, I'm going to try to say some of these names. I only know one of these people. I know who Ashton Kutcher is. I don't know who Mila Kunis and Jake Gyllenhaal is, but these people are claiming to steal my showering habits. Now,
I'm going to
clarify. I'll clarify. If you've noticed, I'm having a bad hair day. Why am I having a bad hair day?
Because you don't wash
it. Well, there's that. But I didn't even wash my body today.
Self-inflicted.
I probably didn't wash my body yesterday. I don't think I've showered in 2 days, which is fine. I have rehearsal later. I'll sweat, and maybe I'll shower tomorrow. With that being said, these people are getting publicity for not showering. They have no idea. I've been doing this for years.
Can I begin by telling you who they are and how to pronounce their names?
But yeah, go ahead, please.
Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis had a story out a couple of days ago saying that they rarely shower and they rarely bathe their kids. And then Jake Gyllenhaal, that's how you say his name.
Kids?
Not Gyllenhaal, whatever you called him. Yeah. He says that he also doesn't, Jake Gyllenhaal, he doesn't bathe that often because he believes there's skin benefits to that. Now, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, in a third separate article says he showers 3 times a day.
He sounds like your kind of guy.
Yeah, I relate to that a little bit more than the not showering thing because, don't want to be gross. But I'm just curious as to why these people feel the need to put this out there.
Yeah, why? What was the purpose? What's the article just talk about? I mean, it just talks about them stealing my shit, so I don't get it.
Yeah. You want to know what I think happened? They listened to the last podcast where I asked you how long you've gone without showering. Mm-hmm. You replied by making fun of me, how long have you gone without showering? And then all of a sudden these articles come out. It's not a coincidence.
Ironic? I mean, and the irony is that we did talk about this last week, and here we are talking about it again. But in one week, there's 3 articles of people stealing our shit. Rock is stealing your cleanliness stuff because you guys are freaks and need to shower 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And all those other jerk-offs are stealing my, I'm lazy and don't shower. They can get skin benefits my ass, dude. Why do you call it how it is? You're married, your wife don't care, you got money, you don't need to do anything, so you just sit around in your boxers, unshowered, and let your fucking balls waft in the air. That, my friend, is the way to live.
Yeah, cool story, dude. But all I'm saying is that it's a whole bunch of thunder-stealing ass bitches out there.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand where they're coming from.
And that's all I have to say about that, I think. You need to put an article out there.
Well, I believe this podcast is an article in itself. It's a verbal article. It's an audio article. It's an article.
That's true.
And I'm telling you right now, Ashton Kutcher, you're a thunder-stealing ass bitch.
Yeah, he's not the only one.
There's
a couple of them out there. We're going to have to keep at this, though. We have to keep, I guess, each podcast until it gets redundant. We're going to have to just put our showering habits out there because it seems like that's what everyone else is doing. If you want to keep up with the people.
Or the flip side is to just not talk about our showering habits anymore and not follow the pack.
I see what you mean. Like we started this thing, they took it over, and now we're just not gonna try to compete.
So now
I like that so much better.
So much cooler, because we're the originators. See what see the twist? The originators.
I do. You're the OG dirtball, and I'm the OG OCD queen.
I like that you called yourself a queen.
Yeah,
we'll roll with it.
I could joke at myself. I could make fun of myself, dude.
You know, when we found that rock article, that man is very put together. He looks extremely manicured, like almost like, yo, bro, you've lost the dude in you.
Well, he takes care of himself. What's wrong with that?
All I was saying is he lost the dude in you.
Anyway, buddy.
So today we have Eric 13 is joining us. Eric is a guy I've known. I've actually met Eric for the first time, probably in 2006 or 7, in Venice Beach, California. We'll get to that story when we talk to Eric. But Eric is from the band Combichrist, plays guitar. He's also Eric 13. He's a solo artist, and he's also the singer, guitar player for the band Sex Slaves. So he will be joining us in about, 30 seconds. So everybody sit tight. Here comes Eric 13. 1313. 13. Coming in hot, all the way from Philadelphia, PA, Eric 13.
She hangs a sign outside her window.
Awesome. Well, hey, Eric, welcome to the Whatever Buddy podcast. Everybody, this is Eric 13. Eric and I, it's interesting because we have a mutual buddy, friend, / working relationship with this guy, Martin, who was on the podcast 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good old Martin. He must have been a great guest.
Oh, he was. I wasn't expecting it.
So handsome in his Swedishness.
Oh, I got lost in his beard once again. The interesting thing is, before the whole Martin connection, you and I met years ago. I want to say it was like 07-ish, 06, 07.
I can't remember that far back.
You were in LA recording an album with Sex Slaves or something along the lines of that. And we met at something supper club, air-conditioned supper club, right?
Yeah,
is that what it called?
Venice Beach.
Venice Beach.
Yeah.
And we met there. And we played a show there, but before we played the show there, I think we just met, like, hanging there. Because it was like a thing that happened. I forget what day of the week it was. It was like Thursdays or Tuesdays.
Yeah, it was our buddy Nick.
Yeah.
And she had was pioneering a party there in Venice Beach. And I thought it was interesting because there was already kind of a buzz with Sex Slaves and Bullets. Like, we were just kind of running in the same circles a lot. And we had a lot of crossover fans and stuff. So it made sense that we were eventually going to meet, and the producer we were working with, it just seems like, oh, you guys should tour with these guys, or, oh man, you know them. And that seemed to be happening a lot around LA. But we met up there, and here we are, decades later.
How did we figure out, okay, we met then, when did we meet again?
I guess it had to have been through Martin himself, because Martin, a great friend of mine. I know he's a great friend of yours. He's the guy in the south of Sweden. Sex Slaves had played a show over there. Well, I think here's how it started for us years ago. It's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, this is good because I just jumped all over the place and I need to.
And it goes to many people how I met a lot of friends in Europe. For example, it's very similar to, I don't know if you remember or know of, there's a small club in Germany called Combichrist, which is a bastion, a rock and roll bastion in the center.
It's still there.
Still there. That's why I said if you remember. But what had happened was Sex Slaves were touring around the States, and it was right around that time, right around this Venice time when things started to, expand, and we were getting all these messages, if you ever come to Sweden, you got to come to this club, and fans were hitting us up. So I wouldn't say one day, 1 week, it actually took us like 2 weeks. The bass player of Sex Slaves and I went through our MySpace page, and we found every single message of this style and wrote to these people that said, if you ever come to Germany, I got a spot, or when are you guys coming here? And we wrote to every single person and said, we're coming to Europe. What can you do for us? And booked our first European tour.
It's awesome.
And the irony was, actually, well, I didn't even think about this when I started the story, is that night at Air Condition, there was a guest DJ, and it was the Paunchy Cats guy. Oh my God, I wasn't even leading to this. I just remember he came to the States and was like, hey, can you hook me up with a DJ gig? And I asked Nick, I said, well, there's this show at Air Condition if you want to come. And that kind of catapulted us over to Europe. And at my first Swedish show, I met Martin. And we've been friends ever since. And, you know, as he probably covered on the podcast, you know, he wears so many hats as tour manager,
really
as roadie, as manager, that over the years he's done all sorts of things for me, for my bands. You know, we've hung out just as friends. He's tour managed. He's booked me gigs, and I love these types of people in the rock and roll world. You just know when someone's cool and they're down and they help you out. But it goes a little further, like guys that you would hang out with if they lived close to you, and you develop this network around. You know, there's your professional network, but then there's a handful of guys that you're like, all right, this guy's my guy. And Martin is one of those for me, as I know he is for you. And he's always been cool. He's always had my back. He's booked me some cool things, and we just always seem to circle back. And when I got something going on, you know, if I'm thinking about Scandinavia, he's the first person I call.
And it's kind of remarkable because that's kind of exactly how our Warner Drives story in Europe started, pretty much the same way. Martin was the guy who hit me up and said, hey, if you ever want to play in Sweden, I might be able to get you some shows. And then the week after that, I got us a festival in Germany. And then I hit him right back. I was like, well, dude, as a matter of fact, him and Dennis hooked it up. But that's pretty wild. I'm trying to remember how I put together that if we had met and you were in the Sex Slaves, and then he always talked about this guy, Eric 13, how did I ever figure out, wait a second, that's that same dude from the Sex Slaves who I met? I don't know how that happened.
I mean, there was also, so there was the connection with Bullets, and then the same thing happened with Warner Drive. Everyone was trying to put us together on the tour for years, it seemed like. And I remember, and I knew I had met Candace, and it was the same kind of thing. It was just a lot of, and it totally makes sense, from when we talk and we hang out. We're into, just rock and rollers, and you're into the same tunes, and it's no surprise that we're both friends with Martin, and then that people say, you guys should, why isn't Sex Slaves and Warner Drive touring together?
I love that small world stuff, dude. It's like there's millions of bands, but you all know somebody that knows one of your friends, and then whenever you meet that, third degree of separation or whatever, it's like, oh yeah, cool. And like, of each other, but you didn't necessarily meet in any particular way. It's awesome to me. It's like you could be in Sweden and feel like you're at home because you're around people that you know. I
remember walking into Martin's house, and this might have been the time that I actually did connect the dots. And I remember he had a mirror. This is before he moved into his new house. He had a mirror. And he had this Philadelphia Flyers like emblem, but it was a 13. And I'm like, hey, Martin, what's up with this fucked up Philadelphia Flyers logo thing on your thing? Because being from Philadelphia myself and being a huge Flyers fan myself, I was like, somebody's completely ripping off fucking the Flyers here. What's happening? He's like, oh, that's Eric. Eric played in the Sex Slaves. And then I was like, oh, Sex Slaves. And I think that's how it actually came to be. But speaking of 13, how the hell did that come about?
I'm thinking about bringing that logo back. It was such a good logo. It was such a good play on that logo. But I had gotten sued by Jack Daniels before. And I used that Flyers logo. I said, you know what? I don't really feel like having the Flyers come after me next.
You got sued by Jack Daniels because of the song, or?
Not because of the song, because of a T-shirt with the Jack Daniels logo. Now, the first thing you think of how many bands have you seen that rip off the Jack Daniels logo?
Leonard Skinner's main T-shirt is the Jack Daniels.
Yeah, hundreds of them. It was weird with Jack Daniels. We had this love-hate relationship. They were totally aware of us and our song. It was our, and we always wondered. And there was a period where Jack Daniels reps were coming to our show, and I had more Jack Daniels swag than you can even imagine. They would bring huge boxes of dozens of T-shirts, hats, wristbands, necklaces, shirts, shorts, bikinis, underwear, cups, mugs, glasses, keychains. We had so much stuff. and we would just give it away. Embroidered leather jackets. They actually at one point gave us these super badass leather jackets, and were giving us stuff. They would bring us cases of Jack Daniels, and not like little bottles, like the big ass bar bottles. Like,
They trying to kill you guys?
They were just like feeding us stuff. People were into it, and then out of nowhere, I get a letter, and it's like, we are asking you to cease and desist. You know, it was a T-shirt design, and they're like, and we are demanding, I forget what the word was, $10,000 in restitution for this logo. So I wrote him back the letter, and I said, Dear Jack, thank you for your message. I'm willing to cease and desist, and I would like to make a counter offer. We're going to give you nothing. And I sent that off, and the guy wrote back, and I could go on it. And what would happen was this guy would take time to process it, and he would write me a letter, and he'd be like, we need an answer by August 1st, right? And I'd wait.
Well, what was his response to I'm paying nothing?
He said, well, I understand, and you guys are a band. We need you to pay at least $7,500. This was his response. We need you to get back to us by August 1st. So this would be like June. I would wait, and then I would send a letter, and on August 1st, I'd say, I need more time to sort this out. I'll write to you by November 1st. And I would push it out 2 months. And then on November 1st, I would say, he would write me a letter, and I'd say, I need some time. And I'd say, okay, here's my counteroffer. How about nothing? 2 months would go by. He would write a letter. He'd say, we need you to pay at least $5,000. So you see where this is going. I would wait till the last minute. I'd say nothing. This went on, no joke, for 2.5, almost 3 years, this back and forth via letter. And finally, the guy just said, will you just sign the cease and desist letter, and we'll call it a day? I said, no problem. Sign the letter.
Yeah, like I would have done that 2 years ago, bro. Like,
yeah.
That's
awesome. But I
awesome.
always responded with the same thing. We will give you $0.
Did he ever come up with a reasoning, like what the logic was for the 10,000?
Not really. There was some legalese behind it. But here, at the same time, there was another episode, like another thing. A friend of mine was a DJ at the Jack Daniels National Party or whatever it was. It was the headquarters, had a huge party, anniversary party, 150 years or whatever the number was. And the guy came up to the DJ, my buddy Eric, and he's like, there's a song called Thank God for Jack Daniels. He's like, I know, of course. He's like, I want you to play that every 30 minutes for the entirety of this day. Every 30 minutes, play that song at this party. So Jack Daniels knows exactly who we are and knows who that song was. And I'm just waiting for them to call me and be like, we have this new ad campaign. That's what I'm waiting for. That's what I'm waiting for.
How do you think they knew about the T-shirt? Just like they knew the song, they went to your website.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was right on the front page of our website that we were selling, or you could go to a show. So we definitely were using the Jack Daniels logo. So I never debated.
For how long before they caught on?
A couple years.
You got some money out of it.
Was the guy legit?
More than 10 grand.
Was the guy legit?
He was legit.
He was a lawyer for them or something?
Yeah, he was legit. He was legit.
Yeah.
Were you nervous? It's Jack Daniels.
At first, yes. The first letter, I was like, what the, holy shit. But of course, we said the same thing. We're like, they must do this to every band. Someone's job must be to send these letters out, So I never really debated it. And there was one point we talked on the phone. I said, dude, you got to be fucking kidding me. I said, this is amazing advertising. You yourself, I said, if I had $1 for every Jack Daniels guy that's come to my show, he said, look, man, this is just the way it is.
Eric 13. I'm going to guess that 13 is not your real last name. So you don't need to tell what the real last name is. And if it is your real last name, that's crazy in itself. But if it's not, how did you come up with that?
My real last name is Eric 12, but 13 is my lucky number.
That's what I was thinking.
It's one of those things. The actual meaning is lost in history to how it became a thing of its own. The true story is actually pretty amazing, but I didn't utilize the name until later on. So the name actually predates my birth. So my dad is a rock and roller, unsurprised. So, and I was pretty young. He was pretty young when I was born. But prior to that, so he grew up just outside of Philadelphia here, but he would go up to New York City, party. This was the heyday, the late 60s. And he finds himself, he was going to Cafe Wah, up there. That's a hot spot in the East Village. And he goes to a party afterwards, people in and out. He sees people. Jimi Hendrix is at this party. And they're sitting there, and a joint is being passed around. Now, my dad said he didn't speak with him or wasn't up to him, but it was obvious this is Jimi Hendrix, and he's kind of just in awe. Next thing you know, bumping shoulders, Jimi Hendrix is handing my dad a joint and says, "Do you have a kid?" My dad was like, "What?" He's like, "Do you have a kid?" He says, "No." He says, "Well, if you did, you should call him 13. Like, hands him the thing. And my dad was like, okay. And then years later, my dad tells me this story. I'm like, I can't believe you've never told me this story. That's crazy. Gotta be it. He's like, yeah. He's like, we sometimes when you were young, we would make a joke about it, but it never really stuck when you were young. And so it kind of became an inside joke with us. And then I was never one really for nicknames. But that was too good. And so when the Sex Slaves first started and we were, I don't know, like everything else with the band, starts as a joke, and then it becomes a thing. And I'm Eric 13. I'm Brian 23. I'm going to be number 8. And we were just joking around. And the first show we called ourselves those names. And then next thing you know, that's my professional name for the rest of the time.
If anybody ever says anything like that to you in the future, all you have to do is be like, Jimi Hendrix gave me that name.
Let's go through the chronological history here a little bit because it is interesting. So we touched base on the Sex Slaves. Now, through the grapevine, and I won't say where I learned this, but rumor has it that rock and roll wasn't always your career. We won't tell anybody unless you choose to tell anybody what that was. But how did you make the transition? Why did you make the transition? And was Sex Slaves your first band?
All good questions, all fair questions, and nothing secret there. I grew up, as I mentioned, my parents are into rock and roll. My uncle was a touring musician, and my parents would follow he and his bands around. And they were very young when I was born. In fact, I was the only little kid on the scene. And I used to just hang out in this party scene. So I have pictures of me as a little kid, on the back of motorcycles, painted up like Kiss. And I remember particularly my 5th birthday party. I had a huge surprise party, but I was the only little kid. It was just all my parents' crazy biker friends. And my dad was into muscle cars, like a lot of drag racing and stuff. So we had this huge party and I was the only little kid and into rock and roll. So I've always been into rock and roll. So it's really not a stretch at all. I listen to the same music today that I did when I was 5 years old. When we're at this party, we're listening to Led Zeppelin and Kiss and Black Sabbath. And these are still, my favorite bands. Not pat myself on the back. I was, however, a good student, and I went to college. And I do have a degree in computer science, actually.
Wow. Where'd you go to college?
I went to Clemson University in South Carolina. Go Tigers. Nice. And when I left college, I went and got a job. I was really the same person, still listening to rock and roll. I just happened to have been a good student. And I got offered a fat job in New York City that was cool. And so when this job was like, we're going to pay you shitloads of money to fly around the world and deal with these technology systems, it was pretty cool. But then ultimately the music kind of seeped back in and I was like, this is great, but I gotta follow my muse, man. I gotta give this up. And everyone thought I was a fool. They said, you are crazy, man. You've got it. You've succeeded. You're kicking ass. You got this job, you got money, you got all these things. I said, that's all great, but that ain't what makes me happy. So
I wake up in the morning and love what it is you do.
Yeah. So I put it in the rearview mirror and never looked back.
I like that story. I like that story because I went to college too. Whenever I got out, that was whenever I like really started playing music, and there was a moment of insecurity for me where it was like, so I just got done with school. Now I'm playing music. I like, and my dad was the one that said to me, he's like, do what you like, do what you what
good
your heart
man
says to
good
do. Yeah, so it's awesome.
Yes, it's similar to mine. I mean, I don't feel guilty because I did utilize, my degree. But to be honest, my job, I couldn't do what I do musically if it weren't for that job. I learned so much. I worked with cool people. I worked with super intelligent people. It was super hardcore, cutthroat, entrepreneurial. They rewarded hard work and success. It's just like the music business, like no one was handing me anything. You had to work for it. So I loved that I did that job. Like I could never go back, but it was cool at the time and taught me a lot about, being a pro. And I'm not going to get super cliche and like I became a man, but
But I
definitely
became a
learned.
man.
But I did learn. Professionalism was worth learning.
Back to it, I got a question for you. So you're living in Philadelphia, and you play in Combichrist. Where is Combichrist based out of?
Well, when I joined, it was based in Atlanta. So Combichrist is it's similar to Nine Inch Nails. It's really a one-man show. So Andy LaPlagua is the singer, songwriter, composer, mixer, everything for Combichrist, and then has a live band. So they'd already been in existence for over 10 years when I got the call.
But how did you end up there? Because like that while you're telling this story, maybe
it is definitely strange. It does seem a little out of left field, particularly when I got the call. I was really not aware of Combichrist at all, other than I knew one guy in the band because he used to rehearse next to Sex Slaves. So there was a video on YouTube of Combichrist backstage singing my song or Sex Slave song, Thank God for Jack Daniels.
Oh, cool.
And all these people had sent it to me like, oh my God, Combichrist. And how they knew me was they were big. The one guy who used to rehearse brought that album, and apparently one tour, that was their after party album for every night. They would put this album on every night. So when Andy decided they wanted to add guitar, well, basically he had written a new album. They didn't even have guitar prior to my joining the band. They were strictly electronic band, all synths and stuff. And then they had a little stint where a guy was playing guitar over top, but he had written a more rock record. So despite his success in the electronic world, he's actually a rock and roller under that and punk rocker and into hardcore music, but just became successful in this other genre. So when he was asking guitar, they made a list of like 100 guitar players they wanted to join the band. None of them were available, so they called me.
Oh, wow.
I was available. I was number 101, and I was actually free at the time. And then he said, look, it's just this 2-month tour. We got a 2-month tour. Can you do it? And I said, yeah. And he says, after that, we'll figure it out. So it's been 7 years. I still don't know if I got the gig yet. I'm still waiting for the call.
Still waiting for the confirmation.
Still waiting for the call. But it's worked out pretty good. Lots of stuff. Obviously, now that whole genre, I know everybody now in the industrial world from being in, so many festivals around the world. Have made lots of friends, and that type of music has become part of my life and part of, has influenced now my own music. So it really kind of got into it.
Something that I noticed, it's a pretty bottom heavy sounding rock band, Combichrist, but you don't have a bass player.
It's been in and out. There's been a bass player a few times, but then when he left, we just never got another bass player, which actually messed me up big time. It really hurt how I had to approach the guitar because I had to fill in so much more space.
It changes your whole approach, I would imagine, to what you're actually playing.
Yeah, it's funny for a band that's considered an electronic band, which they are, and a lot of the songs, a lot of the catalog has no guitar parts. I actually enjoy a lot of creativity, and it gets quite challenging to come up with parts or to fill in those things. To actually play in the band requires a little, it's actually way easier to just play a song with 10 parts that I got to figure out the guitar parts. versus playing 3 songs that are just one note electronic songs. It's
Right.
like one song is, and I've said this in other interviews, like da 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 for 4 minutes, and it's like, all right, what am I going to do on guitar? So I come up with some cool droning thing, and like, all right, this is cool. And then the next song is da 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 da. It's another one. I'm like, all right, well, now what the fuck do I do? And then I had to come up with a dozen of these, and it's like, oh my god, this is so hard now, and like to figure this out, and playing in 4 different tunings, like some is drop D, some is drop C, even drop B, a couple in standard. So
when you have that come up, do you find yourself kind of going more like guitar effects type of thing, or do you find yourself like writing parts that fit?
Both. I try to do both. A lot of effects. It was actually really hard. Over the years in Sex Slaves, I developed this incredible guitar rig, just huge fat sound, multiple amps, but I had pre-programmed everything with MIDI. And when I got into Combichrist, that rig didn't lend itself to like experimentation. And I really like struggled at first because it was like, oh fuck, I can't experiment.
Black Lipstick, Eric 13's single, new single. I want to bring this in. I want to make Combichrist. It's awesome. I'm glad to have learned a lot about it. But I want to. Now you know.
Now
I know. I want to learn more about you and your solo stuff. We've learned about the Sex Slaves. Now, and for years you've been doing Eric 13 acoustically, and I don't know if you've done it with a live band, but you have a single that came out a few months ago that I think is awesome. I think I've told you this before. For my first, I love Billy Idol. Okay, so my first thing when I heard it was like Flesh for Fantasy. I was like,
yeah,
this
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Fantasy. It's fucking awesome. Tell us about that. I mean, I guess that's when you say that some of the influence of the industrial world's creeped in, because there's, a slight industrial vibe underneath, I guess you could say. I don't think it's an industrial song.
It was just, I really, Sex Slaves put out 4 full-length records. I've already really been a songwriter and a singer. And so when I got in Combichrist, it was actually that was the first band I've ever been in where I wasn't the singer. So I'm only playing guitar. Yes and no. It's a lot of fun and it's a lot less pressure. And I did enjoy it a lot, but I absolutely love singing. Singing is actually I love singing more than playing guitar. And I am a songwriter, and Combichrist wasn't allowing me that outlet. Now, it wasn't something where I'm like, at home crying or angry about it, because Combichrist affords me a lot of other cool things. But in these last few years, I have this huge backlog of songs that I've been writing, and I'd say, okay, when I end this tour, I'm going to go home and make a record, but Combichrist has been touring so heavy for years that there's just been no time. I mean, we're doing 8-9 months a year, and I come home, takes 2 weeks to decompress. I have a week, and then I'm getting ready for tour again. So when I started all right, now I really want to put out some music. And before Black Lipstick was another tune, Devil's Highway. I wasn't purposely trying to do an industrial song or even shade to play to the crowd. I said, but I have a lot of songs. So if I had 25 songs, it would make more sense professionally to pick one that hopefully could be appreciated by both the Combichrist, the Sex Slaves, or any other audience. Like if I came out with one of my, country Johnny Cash style ballads, that's cool, and I stand behind it artistically. But Black Lipstick was just a song I dug. That one was actually just a song I liked. I appreciate that if you hear Billy Idol in there, that's great. It's always funny when people hear different influences. I get, I'm a big Bowie fan, and people will be like, oh, like particularly that song. They're like, oh my God, you sound exactly like David Bowie, or you sound like Billy Idol, or someone else says, oh, this is so type O. I'm like, you know what? I'll take all these. That's pretty good. That means, at least I'm in the right ballpark.
Where does it come from for you, that song?
It's just totally natural. It's just me hamming it up.
Nice.
I wasn't trying to do anything. I do owe a lot to the producer, this guy Umi Kapila, who's a great friend of mine, and he and I made that song together. And I do think he pulled some cool elements out of it. His production style gave it that, Flesh for Fantasy vibe. Because as soon as he put this little guitar riff in there, to me, it's like Let's Dance by David Bowie. It's this,
I love that
which is
I
Stevie
love that
Ray Vaughan
album.
playing on that album. And Stevie Ray Vaughan just plays, there's in the middle of the verse, it's just
didn't know
one
that.
note, literally one note, but it's just cool. So when he put that little riff in the verse of Black Lipstick, now it's not similar, but it just took me to that place. Like, that's what a great spot for a note right there. And if you can put the right note,
Yeah.
Totally. So that's awesome.
Where do you hear my new single? Oh, shit.
When are we going to hear that new single?
Very soon. On my to-do list this week, actually after this podcast. I was like, okay, what's next on my list? Okay, I got to do this. I'm going to do this podcast. Very excited for this. And then I got to sit down and map out when this single's coming out.
Killer, man. Well, you've satisfied a lot of my things that I wanted to know. But we do like to play games here on the podcast.
Okay.
And Ryan, you want to tell them about the game?
Yeah, so we have this thing, we're going to throw some topics at you, maybe call them quick questions, and we just want to hear the first thing that comes off the top of your head.
All right, hit me.
So you're from Philly. I'm from Philly. We're known for cheesesteaks. So you'll get the Steve's Princess Steaks. You'll get the deep dives, the deep cuts with the Philly people. But to the outside world, they know Pat's and Geno's. Are you a Pat's or a Geno's guy?
I like them both, and they both are great. But if it came down to it, I'd take Geno's.
All right.
No. That's why him and I could be on the same team, because I'm a Pat's guy. He's a Geno's guy.
But I like Pat's too. You can't look. Pat's invented a cheesesteak. You can't go wrong.
Last cliche Philadelphia question of the day, I promise you. Rocky 1 or Rocky 2?
Oh, man, that is tough. I can't even choose between Rocky 3 or 4. I mean, you got Clubber Lang, Mr. T. You got Ivan Drago. I must break you.
If he dies,
but
he dies.
You can't beat Rocky 1 running down 9th Street through the Italian Market. I used to live just a couple blocks from there, right off. I lived on 5th and Christian. That was 9th and Christian right there. Every time I walk down that street, which is fairly frequently, you're just like, this is it, man. This is it. This is the
where
scene.
it happened.
And I also want to say, and also in Rocky 1, they filmed it at Pat's. Not Geno's, but Pat's.
Your musical career spans a pretty broad spectrum of styles. Whenever you think about playing a solo show versus playing a show with a band, what comes to your mind?
Which do I prefer?
Yeah.
Actually, the band, just because you can be a lot louder. I love, as much as I do really love the acoustic stuff and doing that, that's kind of out of necessity. You can't beat the feeling of, some dudes getting together and turning it up, man.
All right. Next question, I say with love. Guy liner. Go.
I don't wear it, but, when I do wear makeup on stage, and it actually became so synonymous with my look that if I played a solo show, I felt totally naked without the makeup on stage.
Do you design your own makeup? Because I've seen some pictures that are actually kind of neat, like with the lines
myself.
here and stuff.
Well, they like to make fun of me because when I joined the band, I was like, I don't have to wear makeup, do I? I had this, I'm from Philadelphia, and you even when you don't want to be fake machismo, it just comes with the territory.
Yeah.
And then now they joke because I'm like the first guy like getting the makeup and doing my thing. I love the character part. It's just like acting. It's just taking the whole rock and roll teenage dream to another level. You're just creating a character, and that's fun for me.
I can appreciate that. There's, people, I get the mindset of like dudes going on stage, just jeans, t-shirts, cool. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I do it now, for crying out loud. But I like the idea of like the showmanship of it all, of like, this is your character. You got to get into your fucking zone. You get up there and it's like, you put that makeup on, you're probably in a different zone. It takes you to a place where you're like ready to do it. And then when you take it off, it's like, all right, where's the Jack Daniels at?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think you should be whether it's t-shirts, of course, there's nothing wrong with t-shirts and jeans, absolutely not. But as long as there's something that differentiates you from the crowd, that's what I think it is. Like I have a rule. My personal rule is when you walk in the door, they should know you are the entertainment. Like they should look at you and be like, that's the band right there.
Right.
You know, like
No,
there's no doubt as soon as you walk in. They see you, they see the hair, they're like, this guy's the drummer, I bet.
Last question of the day, and in light of the last topic, I'm going to share a picture here. And I want to know who wore the guy liner better.
Very handsome on the right. Very handsome. Innocent.
I'm just a little pup right there. Just a little. We both have mesh on.
Oh, wow. That is good. And the red background. Wow, look at that. Twinning right there.
Couple of twins.
It's like, it's as if you are Arnold Schwarzenegger and I'm Danny DeVito.
On that note, hey, my video just ended. Awesome, Ryan. But we got all of it until right there.
As long as it ended at the end, then I guess we're okay.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, it was good to get to know you a little bit better. Like I know we played a show in the past, but you know, it's good to chat a little bit, see where you're coming from, and appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Awesome, dude. You're the man. I will talk to you real soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much, guys. Great rapping. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Eric 13, everybody. The guy got his name from Jimi Hendrix, technically, but still, you're destined to play music. Anyways, thanks, Eric, for joining us. It was great to chat and get to know you a little bit better. Also, thanks to everybody listening for joining us again. If you haven't, go like, follow, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. If you want to see our faces, go to the YouTube. I hope you're starting to catch on that we do this every week. So, if you are, then we'll see you next time.